This is the Powered Up Podcast, show 38.
So we got in trouble all the time because we were like, what if? And he was like, yeah, let's do it, So we needed to just try things. We needed to
experiment with the learning.
And explore.
Feel the learning, right? Like explore. What about if we do this? So that's the way we try to teach, the way that we want to enhance our students, empower them to learn in that way, empower them to have that curiosity that we had in the past.
Welcome to a real-world education with insight and advice from teachers in the game, where current and former educators reveal what truly sets apart the great teachers and what it takes to make a positive impact on students. Whether you're in pre-service learning, new to the game, or a seasoned veteran, this is the show for you. You'll leave feeling inspired to take action because we are powering education by empowering you.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Ken Ehrman, host of the Powered Up Podcast, and I am here with my co-host, Mr. Matt One-of-a-Kind Rogers. Matt, what's going on?
Buddy, I am doing. I don't know if I'm doing well. I don't know if I'm doing poorly, but I'm doing. We're here. It is a Tuesday night after a long weekend. Today felt like the first day of school, even though we're almost 10 days in. I guess the word of the week is regression, and how do we pick up the pieces and make tomorrow better?
Yeah, it's always tough after, Pennsylvania was hit by a pretty big hurricane, not, just a lot of flash flooding, not nearly as bad as where it, initially hits the coast and some of the tropical islands and stuff, but a lot of school districts in Pennsylvania missed school, and then it was paired with Labor Day weekend, so we kind of already had a huge break after the first week of school. So definitely in those moments, you kind of have to reestablish routines. And when it's the beginning of the year, like you said, you almost felt like you were starting over from a routine and an instructional standpoint. But we're here, like you said, we had a blast. We had an awesome interview tonight. We interviewed the brand known as the ETwins. They are identical twins. They are amazing educators, super passionate, a lot of fun. Their names are Alberto and Mario, and we just had a blast tonight. I mean, honestly, our recording went a little bit longer than normal. Not too bad, but I felt like I just had to totally cut it off because it easily could have gone on for 2 or 3 hours, considering we talked to them for a good amount of time before, and we continued the conversation well after the recording ended. So, Matt, what was it about them that you just felt connected immediately and you just didn't want the conversation to end?
So I think that we've had some guests on, many of our guests that represent education, and kind of all of their efforts represent good for education. But these guys really represented kind of going after what you really want. What is your priority? Why did you get into education? You'll hear in a little bit that they moved to the States from another country, had to learn everything from brand new, but their passion was to make education as great as possible. And they're doing incredible things. They're bringing their own knowledge, but they are far from one-trick ponies, or I guess two-trick ponies with the two of them. It's an incredible partnership, and it's crazy how they came to be, but are so laser-focused on being the best for kids and creating an incredible environment that, honestly, if I had kids right now, I would be moving to Utah to try and have my kids go through their school, because it's just an unbelievable situation they have set up.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Matt, not being one-trick ponies, if you look at their social media and what they're connected in, it's heavily connected to technology. They're involved with ISTE a great deal, and I don't really I don't think we talked about technology at all really with them. We talked about social emotional learning. We talked about, like you said, the school they teach in. They teach in an immersion school where students are learning Spanish and speaking Spanish all day, and it's students where their native language is English. And so, they talk about service projects and just all of these different things that they're doing in their classroom that really create those real world experiences for students that motivate them to ask questions, take risks, make mistakes. They talk about so many important things in the way they're instructing their students that really creates the best learning experience possible. And they talked a lot about this, and I was thinking of it as we were recording. They talk a lot about their students making mistakes and solving problems, and the fact that they're in this immersion school from kindergarten, they're solving problems every 5 seconds over and over again every year through that time, and it allows them to then approach science and math and their core content subjects from a different perspective, where they can solve problems. And it made me think back to our conversation with Kyle Nemus when we were talking about UDL and the ability to make decisions. And Matt, you and I have talked about this, where I would want to find ways to force my students to make as many decisions as they possibly could in a day, because I wanted them to be prepared to be in a more choice-based, student-centered learning experience where they had to make choices to maximize their learning potential. And so, they talk about how the language kind of infuses that problem-solving mindset, but how it kind of permeates throughout everything that they do with students. So before we jump into that interview, do you want to add anything else, or should we just bring these guys in?
I just want to give credit to them. We meet incredible educators, and we've heard 1, 2, 3 maybe themes of what they specialize in. And just the conversation tells you that they are just expert educators. Everything that is related to high quality instruction, they soak up. So more than any guest beyond this interview, follow them, because they are just, we just kept on bringing up topic of conversation, as Ken was kind of alluding to, and they gave elite, high quality, like textbook definitions of a modern educator, what they need to know and understand. You're in for a treat, and it was just an awesome interview.
Absolutely. So without any further delay, let's bring in the ETwins, Mario and Alberto. All right, Mario and Alberto Ajerez, welcome to the Powered Up Podcast. We are super excited to have you here with us tonight. How you guys doing?
Good. We are really well. Excited to be here.
Doing well. Yep.
Excellent. So this is a first time for Matt and I. We have 2 guests on with us at the same time. So why don't you guys officially introduce yourselves? Just tell us, kind of a snapshot of what your career in education has looked like so far in your career. I guess I repeated myself, and where you're coming from.
Well, it's kind of complicated, but we are originally from Spain, and we did our education degree back in Spain. And then after graduating from our undergrad, we moved to Utah, with a scholarship to do our internship, So we came here to Utah to do just an internship, and after that we got hired, So we've been here for 7 years already, So we are teachers. I teach 6th grade, and Alberto teaches...
And it's 5th grade, and that's what we do on the mornings, from 8 to 4. And then after that, we have our own consulting and speaking company, so firm, and we work on that a lot too. So we do a lot of speaking, training for teachers, coaching, and all of those things that we really enjoy too. So that's what we are passionate about, pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So for those of us, our audience that is only listening and not watching, they are twins, and we've only met just to get technology prepped up and stuff, but they're super energetic, and I'm really just excited to dig in here. So I guess I'll just start things off with, why did you make such a big move? What was the motivation to try out Utah? Did you think it was just going to be maybe a short experience and then you would head home? Just, what was that like in terms of making that big leap?
So since we were little, we knew that we wanted to live out of Spain.
Out of Europe.
Out
I
of
guess.
Europe.
Yeah.
Not because we don't like Spain or anything. It's because our mentality is that like we felt like if we lived all of our life in the same place, we were missing a lot. We were missing different cultures, different experiences. So since we were little, we knew that we wanted to just live out of the country. So like we were studying, our degree back in Spain, and we saw this opportunity, which is like it's a company, that pretty much take Spanish students and offer them an opportunity to come to the States. But you don't pick where you are going. You just send an application, and then like those applications go to like this huge pool of candidates. And then school districts go to that pool and pick the candidates.
So pretty much it's a non-profit organization that matches like people that want to do like education internships with school districts that are looking for interns. So it was really funny because we sent our application, and when we were told where we were going to go to teach, we were told we were going to Syracuse, right? And we googled Syracuse, and it took us to Syracuse, New York. So we were super excited, okay, college, city, a lot of like, we were young. So we were like, all right, it's going to be crazy, a lot of party, we're going to have so much fun. And then we found out that it was like Syracuse, Utah.
Which is like a farmer city,
So, I mean, we don't have anything against Syracuse, Utah, but it was funny to see. It was really fun to see or to make our mind that we were going to this big city with like a college city with a lot of like, I don't know, party and like, night activities. And then we were sent to Syracuse, Utah, which is pretty much a farmer town. So
I mean, it's great. We had so much fun, and we are still in contact with a lot of people from that community. And like they were just amazing with us, they like were very welcoming and everything. But I don't know, it was just funny, to see the difference between those two places.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, until you told that story, I had no idea there was a Syracuse, Utah. So don't feel bad about that one. Matt probably knew that. He's a little bit more traveled in the country than I am.
That one slipped by me as well.
So your work now that you're doing, we'll start with your 8 to 5, teaching 5th and 6th grade. You told me when we met last night that it's an immersion school. So can you just share with our audience? I'm sure there's a lot of people that have not heard of what an immersion school looks like, or a fully immersion school, and how that benefits the students, and just what that dynamic looks like.
So like immersion starts in like a kindergarten, so it's like K to 12 program. So pretty much like they start in kindergarten learning Spanish. And then when they go to 1st grade, they start learning Spanish and using Spanish in other subjects. For example, like we teach in 1st grade, I used to teach 1st grade, yeah.
such an adventure.
Yeah, I went to from 6th grade to 1st grade. So well, I have so many stories. In the first day, they don't know how to do anything, like literally anything. Like, I was used to 6th grade, so I was like, all right guys, just line up, and then like I left the classroom, I just walked towards the cafeteria, to get lunch, and I like turned around and looked back, and no one was following me. So I was like, what is going on? So they were back in the classroom trying to figure out, how to line up. I was like, I called my principal, like, I cannot do this, like I really can't. But
yeah, back to the immersion.
Yeah, right. Back to the
immersion. So pretty much we use the Spanish to teach the subject. So we teach math, social studies, science, and Spanish language arts, all that in Spanish. So pretty much I have a teaching partner who she teaches English. So we have 2 groups, A group and B group. So while I have the A group and I'm teaching some of the subjects in Spanish, she has the B group and she's teaching some of the subjects in English, and then we rotate. So pretty much I teach the same lessons on the morning and on the afternoon to 2 different groups.
Yeah, and it Google woke up. And so and
That was
then
Alexa.
yeah. So And then, like, depending on the grade, you teach different subjects. For example, lower grades, they don't have a lot of expertise in Spanish. So we teach math in Spanish, because they are numbers. But then when they get to fourth grade, we switch math for science, because our students, they know enough Spanish to be able to learn science, So depending on the grade, we teach different subjects in Spanish or English. Yeah.
That makes total sense. And kind of, I've always kind of had this thought that when part of teaching is pulling in the environment that the kids live in, right? So you have a different comfort zone growing up in Spain and then coming over to the States, but you moved to Syracuse, Utah, that has so many dynamic features that are specific to where you live. Can you talk about the comfort of merging maybe language and a thrill of learning curriculum, but that kind of maybe learning curve of trying to understand the community and merge those? Because one of the things that I know in fourth grade, we spend so much time talking about our history, our science, things that pertain to us. The idea of moving to a different state, my wife moved from New Jersey to PA. She had to learn PA history, PA geography, PA, all sorts of different factors, right? I could not imagine what that transition was, not only from country to country, but specific to an environment that's most likely different than where you grew up.
It was a cultural shock for us, definitely. Even we read about Utah, we read about USA, we read about culture, how everything is, but it was a cultural shock. But it's good, cultural shocks are good. It's good for us and it's good for our students. For example, when we are teaching language, that we are teaching Spanish, we always say that it is completely impossible to speak a language well, if you don't understand the culture behind it. You can, speak a language, but those are just putting words together, just creating a code, and then the other person is decoding that. But actually, if you want to be very fluent or even bilingual, you need to understand the culture behind it, what kind of communication in different situations, what you can say, what you can't. So it was the same for us. We didn't speak English, by the way, which is even harder. It was even harder, but just even if we learned
that helped.
That helped, yeah.
Because we couldn't make any mistakes because we knew no English at all. So, but it was great for us to actually it was what we were looking for, kind of live in Europe or live in Spain, looking for that kind of learning more about the world, how other people live in different places, and that's what we try to communicate to our students daily in our classes, because some of our students, they live in a bubble. They think that the reality they live in is the only reality in the world. The way they live is everyone lives in the same way. So we try to kind of teach them or explain them that there are many different ways that people live around the world, and there is no a right or a wrong way. It's just different based on background, culture, language, and all of those things. So I think that Mario was right on point when he said that to be able to speak a language, you need to comprehend the culture behind, the people behind it.
So that was, we wanted to learn English, of course, but we needed to understand the culture. We needed to understand how to communicate so many things that if you don't leave your country, if you don't, go and live to USA or, England, whatever, you are not going to understand it.
That makes total sense. And I think you can obviously speak to this better than I can, but as a male teacher, especially in elementary, we are coveted, right? Kids love having male elementary teachers by all means. And I know that my kids gravitate towards me just because I'm a male. It just gives me a sense of authority or maybe a comfort of a trusted role model.
And just different.
And different, yeah. But I would imagine the fact that you have lived a life of what these students in an immersion school are trying to gain has to really wrap kids completely enamored with you. Like, not only did you learn Spanish to teach Spanish, you lived in an environment and just exuded all this that must have just been addicting for kids that really wanted to be in that environment. I would imagine advantages. Can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, but the only thing about that is like students don't realize in 6th and 5th grade yet how powerful a language is. You know, like how lucky they are that they are learning a new language. You know, we know it because we needed to move here and we struggled a lot, you know, with the language, you know, but they are not, you know, like aware of the situation, you know, of like how lucky they are, you know, because they are learning a new language, you know, how many doors that language is going to open for them in the future, you know, like how many opportunities they are going to have that they couldn't, you know, like without this language.
And I think the only moment, or like just a few moments, that they realize how powerful it is to learn a second language is when they go to Mexico, or they go to South America, or even they go to a Mexican restaurant and they try to order in Spanish. So I think that those little moments are the ones that make them realize how lucky they are, how fortunate they are learning a second language. But yeah, like I think we are a good role model for them. Good kind of like, I wish my students could do what we did in the past, kind of move to a different country and kind of like be willing to open their mind and learn the culture behind the language, open their mind and be ready and be willing to try something different, since they already speak the language.
Yeah, we tell parents, you know, like you're thinking about going to, you know, like to college, you know, like just send your student or your kid to Spain for college, you know, to Mexico, to another place, you know. It doesn't need to be for 4 years, you know, but like don't have your students lose that Spanish, you know what I mean? So like they have an opportunity, like we are a perfect example that it works, and you know, it's great, you know. So just think about that. So we talk with parents and we try to encourage them as well, you know. So
yeah, that makes total sense. And I just the thought that it has like popped into my head is, right, so they look to you, they do have that element. Maybe it's in a low risk environment, like you said, going to a local restaurant and trying it out, right? That might be the first key. But I'm sure watching your example leads to, as you mentioned, opening the eyes to the possibility. I'm sure you talk about your story because you're real human beings and you are open with them to say, hey, this is what I did, something they never would have considered or had an example of way beforehand. So I just think that's fascinating. And it's really a leading by example of, you know what, you found, I wanted to take on this opportunity and we took it on. Here were the trials and tribulations and the preparation that went into it, which is a lesson in its own right.
Well, and I feel like it's, I think it's much more commonplace for people from Europe, or frankly anywhere outside of America, to take bigger risks like that and move greater distances. Much less common around here. So I think you're even planting the seed that it's a possibility, that it's actually something they can do. If it weren't for you, they might not even grow up with the idea like that you're allowed to do that. They might not even realize that it is a possibility. So I think it's incredible that you're doing that. What I want you to try to break down for us is, so you teach in a very unique experience for students where they're fully immersed in a language, which honestly I think is just incredible. It's something that I wish I could have done. It's something that I hope possibly my children can do one day. What is something that you could say to every teacher that's listening to this podcast that doesn't teach in that environment? What's something that you feel you approach your instruction with because of being in an immersion school that kind of feeds to the style that you teach that isn't typical with regular teaching practices that you think we all can relate to? Does that make sense? Like, what's something different about the way you teach that everyone can pull away, and even in a regular math class, I can take that instructional approach?
I think that there are two main ones. One is scaffolding, you know, because you're giving the instructions in Spanish. They need to complete the activities in Spanish. If you explain to them like one activity with 25 steps, all of them in Spanish,
They're gonna get lost.
they're gonna get lost. And the second one is check for understanding. Like when you are teaching a language, or when you're teaching a subject in a different language, like you need to check for understanding every 5 seconds. Like if you, we have our principal coming to our classrooms, and they principals or like a superintendent, they always say the same. It's like they love how all of
Feedback goes both ways,
immersion teachers, I just check for understanding all the time, and we are asking for feedback all the time, because it's what we need to do. Because if one student is not with us, they're practically they're not gonna complete the activity, because they can't go home and read the article or whatever the text by themselves, because there are gonna be a lot of words that they don't know, so they need to be with us pretty much all the time.
And some of them, they don't have that parent support, that parent or like I don't know, like cousin or aunt or uncle that speak Spanish. So pretty much all we do, all the instructions, everything we want them to fully understand needs to be taught in the classroom, And also, I know you have noticed, but we move a lot our hands, and we do a lot of movement when we explain things and when we talk, and that's why. That's because we speak and try to kind of like explain what we are saying at the same time with our hand movements or whatever, because it's the way we usually teach, because we need to explain them with words, but also with like some movements, what we mean, actions, repetition, different things. So
how much that pantomiming that goes along with it? Yeah, that makes sense.
How much of the way you're teaching and what you're teaching them, how much of it is built in that you have confidence that they will step up to the plate and learn it and run with it, in comparison to kind of defining every word for them before you actually start talking? Because I find so often, even outside of what we're specifically talking here with immersion, is that teachers teaching algebra in high school or different subjects feel like they have to teach every step of every process in their curriculum before they can kind of open the reins up and let the students run. So I would imagine you have to just let them run from the beginning and kind of, like you said, scaffold and check for understanding along the way. So how can you pull it away from the language base and kind of run with that topic more, in terms of giving teachers confidence to open the reins from the beginning, instead of feeling like they have to define every single term for the kids?
Well, we see it as an opportunity to critical think, to solve problems. And if you think about a language, since they are in kindergarten, these students have been solving problems every second. I don't know this word, I need to find another way to say this. I want to find this vocabulary word, but I don't know how to say it. Instead of saying car, I can say that thing that my dad drives, whatever.
I have 4 wheels, and normally it's red and it's a Ferrari, whatever. So like they need to kind of explain us the word, so they are solving problems constantly. And one thing that we need to think about a lot when we are teaching a language is like the biggest enemy of a language is that you are afraid of speaking it, right? So there are some students that they are afraid of making mistakes, and we need to take that into account. So sometimes we don't need to correct them that much, because we don't want them to be afraid of making mistakes.
And then if we teach every single word, every single thing, they are not gonna make mistakes. And people learn by making mistakes, and that's a fact. The most mistakes you make, the more you learn. And we tell our students, you are not making mistakes. For example, I told them today or yesterday, hey guys, you are not making mistakes. You are speaking 5th grade Spanish. This is 6th grade. I want you to make mistakes. I want you to try new things and to fail. If you are failing, it means that you are learning. But if we are super rigid, if we have this structure that we teach every single thing, we are holding their hands, and just taking them through their learning journey, and they are not gonna make mistakes. They are not gonna fail. We don't want that. We want them to fail, and we want we want us to be there with them. Hey, you're failing. How can I help you? This is how you do it. But if they don't fail, like, they're not gonna learn.
Yeah. And that's what Mario was saying. We don't want them to use the same 500 words over and over and over. We want them to try new words, new ways to put together sentences, like kind of like making those mistakes, because that means they are like improving their language. Because if they stick to those 500 words, it is good for third, fourth grade, but we want them to step up and make those mistakes because that's how we truly believe that they are learning.
But it's not only with languages, it's with science, with math, with everything. Like, push them out of their comfort zone. That's where learning happens.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to follow up with is and correct me if I'm wrong, but your school in your district, there are schools that are not fully immersed, and you're responsible for teaching the same content, standards, curriculum, everything that every other school is. So how do you see that risk-taking and that idea of embracing mistakes translating into the way you're teaching math or the way you're teaching science, social studies, whatever those content subjects are?
I think it is a great mindset that, to me, more teachers should have. Teachers need to learn how to lose power, and put that power on the student, right? And by doing that, you are empowering the students to drive their learning. And that's our mindset, like our focus here, right? We want them to make mistakes because they are the ones who are driving their learning. If I tell them what they need to do, they're not going to make mistakes. They're going to repeat what I do, right? So I think that if we can take that mentality to just regular English teachers, that teach those subjects, that could be great across the district, across the state, across the country.
Yeah, and for example, we are tested, with this exactly same test, everything at the end of the year, exactly the same that everyone else in our district. Standardized test, exactly the same. And if you take a look at our results, for example, we are 10-15% higher than the other schools in our own other classrooms in our own school. So it means that we're not better teachers than them, but it means that our students are solving problems, as we said before, every 5-10 seconds. So when they see a science experiment or a science problem, they're gonna solve it like this. They're gonna go oh, this is how you do it. I've been doing it since kindergarten. I know how to solve problems.
Troubleshooting.
Troubleshooting. I know how to do this. No problem. So that's one of the advantages that we have as well. Because we are teaching a new language.
I think that's super, super important, and the concept of accepting failure as obviously not a stopping point. The language, I've never kind of considered that to be as much of a factor. I just thought it was, hey, maybe it's a different way to learn it. Maybe it's a different way to make connections in the brain. I never thought that was really, changing the mindset, changing an attitude, because I think we all agree that teaching is not checking off standards. It's internalizing instruction and being able to use what you know to make the best possible answer. I don't teach for the science test every single question that I'm going to ask on the science quest. They don't see the reading passage beforehand. It's the idea of, do I have I created in my classroom the ability to, with an open mind, to look at questions and answer them at the best of my ability using skills that we've learned. But I want to kind of pivot, if that's okay. I think it would be selling you guys short if we sat here and said, hey, we work in an immersion language school. It's a high priority of the building and our position. But to be frank, you're doing just great education. Top level, what kids need today, regardless of the grade level, regardless of the language barrier, regardless of those type things that are passion projects for many of us educators. So I just want to kind of pivot away from that one topic, and maybe it's still intertwined, but I know beforehand we were talking about concepts like future ready and social and emotional learning that I'm sure, again, are intertwined, but I'd love for you to talk about where that passion comes from and what you're actively doing to progress understanding, pulling those features into your day-to-day teaching to probably lead to the enhance of student scores beyond just the fact of it being an immersion school.
Yeah. So I think our passion comes from when we were growing up, we were troublemakers. Like, let's be honest. And then troublemakers, we were very active. We were like, we couldn't just be sit, for 8 hours. So let's say that the traditional school system, education system, we didn't fit in that description of that student who sits in a table, just listens for 6 hours, complete the workbook, and then go home. We couldn't. We needed to just hands-on, just stand up and try this. And we were very curious. So we got in trouble all the time because we were like, what if? And he was like, yeah, let's do it, So we needed to just try things. We needed to
experiment with the learning
and explore.
Feel the learning, right? Like, explore. What about if we do this? So that's the way we try to teach, the way that we want to enhance our students, empower them to learn in that way, empower them to have that curiosity that we had in the past. And we we still have, right? Because as you were saying, we are working on a PhD focused on future-ready skills. So to me, my PhD is focused on social and emotional learning. To me, it is so important right now, right? In my perfect world, the EQ will be equal to the IQ, right? We always have this, we always give this great example. If we take the best teacher in the world, like best teacher, like number one, we give him or her the best lesson ever, and we give him or her the best students ever. If 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 students are not mentally ready to learn, it doesn't matter if he or she is the best teacher, if he or she has the best lesson, they are not going to learn. Because there is something that is blocking them from learning, which can be a bad emotion, a bad experience, that they are not ready to learn, they are not happy, something happened at home, or they are feeling that anxiety for something. So we truly think that teaching our students how to deal with those emotions are key for their future.
And then the other future-ready skills, we were talking about tests, right? We are a little against standardized testing. I'm sorry for this, but like standardized
No
testing
apologies
doesn't show
necessary
it.
here.
Yeah, we're on the same boat.
It just shows that you master the content. What about collaboration, communication? What about 21st century skills? What about critical thinking? And we could go on and on forever. Standardized tests is one test about one subject, one day.
In one specific
day and a specific time. What about if my A+ student has been sick for the whole week and she just came back to school?
Or she's having some problems at home, their parents are getting divorced. Like, those things that we were talking about before are really important.
And then many skills that are not measured in those tests, So as we said, like, those skills are, and we truly believe that in the future, skills are going to be more important than content. Like, content is super important, of course. We need to learn about content. We are not saying that content doesn't need to be taught in the future. But what we are saying is that maybe our students are going to need the skills more than the content to be successful in their future work, workplace or whatever. Because, like it or not, we have Google now. We have huge sources of information that we didn't have before. We used to memorize in the past because we were covering that need in the society. We didn't have those, huge sources of information, so we needed to memorize. Right now, we have Google, Yahoo, we have thousands of things, that we can get whatever information we want in 5 seconds. So now our focus shouldn't be on content. Our focus should be on many skills plus how we use that content to solve problems. Okay, now I have all of this information, most of them fake news or, fake information. how can I filter this information to be able to solve this problem?
That's real world. That's what like employees are asked to do nowadays in their jobs, right?
Yeah, so that's why like we are very passionate about those things, because we truly think that our students and our society will need these things in the future.
Yeah, and even just to kind of relate it back to what you said about learning a culture before really learning and applying the language, that's that content piece. You get a basic understanding. It's important to know and understand information. You don't have to know all of it because you can search it, but then you can apply those skills and you can more effectively use and speak the language when you have a basic understanding of that culture. It's the same thing. Like, it's important to know basic information about history or about the solar system or whatever the topic is. But again, it's what do you use with that information? How do you use that to either discover more information, ask more questions, solve more problems? So I totally agree. Where would you say that, kind of speaking to EQ and the idea of social emotional learning, what would you say is something that is really important in that field to help with the other side of critical thinking? Like, is there something that really ties the two together more so than just in generalities?
Normally, empathy is the one that connects them, because like if we are talking about social skills, normally when we are having a conversation or a social interaction, we are thinking critically to see how we can interact with that person, what kind of words I'm going to use, what kind of like actions I can make, and to make him comfortable, right? So empathy and critical thinking normally they go hand in hand because they work together when we are when we are having a social interaction with someone.
That makes total sense. To kind of challenge you a little bit, and obviously you've done a lot of research and you are preparing kids. I love the concept of preparing for skills, not necessarily content, to be able to handle. What attributes of your classroom, and maybe from your research, maybe from your studies, what tangible things have you brought into your classroom? Like, we're recording this for me personally in the second full week of school. It's a great time to talk about social and emotional learning. It's a great time to talk about general skills, procedures, how do we do these different things. But in a month from now, I'm going to be in the thick of learning with the pressure of covering the curriculum. How do I still prioritize, or are there certain things that you guys do to incorporate these skills embedded into lessons or in isolation?
We always say that, for example, like social emotional learning or STEM, STEM, we kind of like talk about those two because every time we kind of like go to conferences and speak or like visit schools, we see how teachers do social emotional learning, technology, STEM. They teach those in isolation. And to our mind, that is a huge mistake. It's great that you have like a social emotional learning day, every month. That is great. But it's not going to have a huge impact in your students because you're teaching that in isolation one day. But if you can get that and put that into your kind of create a routine or kind of connect that with your learning, that's how it is super powerful. For example, like our morning routine. Our students get to our classroom on Monday and then we have a schedule. And in that schedule, they have everything they are going to do throughout the week. Everything. So after that, they scroll down a little bit and then they have their weekly goals. They need to set a weekly goal for each subject.
Can I pause for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, when we talk about, I want to explain this for the people that are listening. When we talk about social and emotional learning, there is more than just emotions. We talk about self-regulation, social awareness, all those things that are also important in social and emotional learning. And you were talking about self-regulation
and self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
So thank you so much, because that's a huge misunderstanding, misconception that social emotional learning is just emotions and feelings, but it's way more than that. So our students get to our classroom, they have their planning for the whole week, their schedule, they set weekly goals, and then those weekly goals for each subject, and those weekly goals need to be smart. So what does it mean to be
Like
smart?
a specific, measurable, timely, accurate. So like pretty much we teach them how to set up goals every day, and we reflect on those on Friday. So those are the weekly goals we set up every Monday, and we reflect on them on Friday. And if they keep scrolling, they're going to find the mood meter. So the mood meter is this like can be a wheel of feelings. We call it the wheel of feelings because it's like every day and you complete a wheel, and they have a key that they need to complete. So happy, angry, like disappointed, like anxious, and they need to complete with color. That's called emotionally granularity. Emotionally granularity is to put emotions into words, in this case into colors, which is, it's great to see how they match different colors and emotions.
So they have this key, and for example, they have happy. And for a student, happy is yellow this week, so they color happy yellow. Then angry, and it's red for them this week. So they complete this key of different emotions, kind of linking those emotions with the colors. And then every day, like in the morning, they need to color, like that day how they are feeling. For example, Monday I feel happy, Tuesday I feel angry, whatever. And then on Friday, when they reflect, on the weekly goals, they also talk about their emotions. They also talk about their mood meter, their wheel of feelings. So if their videos we use Flipgrid would be something like, okay, Monday I felt angry, and then I didn't meet this goal, or for example, I felt angry or anxious on Monday, and I that day we needed to take a test, and my test I got 20%.
Because I was not feeling
I was not feeling good. So we are asking them as well to match emotions with academic performance, because we want them to realize how their emotions are affecting their academic performance. Plus, it's a way to track their emotions. Sometimes we have a lot of students who are suffering in silence. They're anxious, they're doing whatever, and they're not gonna come to you, and say, hey, I have this problem or I'm struggling. But if they color, in a wheel of feelings, how they are feeling, if you keep track of that for a month or for
important.
2 months, you can identify those students who are struggling and can talk with your counselor, with their psychologist or whatever.
That's important, and we track it for a long time. If one student is having one bad day, don't call the counselor, please. We are looking for those patterns, kind of like they fluctuate. Those are emotions. Like even as an adults, our emotions fluctuate constantly. We have good days, bad days. We are looking for those patterns that are telling us some things. And also something really, really easy that everyone can use tomorrow in their classes can be, for example, we are reading a story, and normally we focus on what happened in the story, right? Like where this story took place. What about if we now focus on the main character feelings? Like, how do you think that the main character was feeling while this was happening? How do you think that this guy was feeling when he saw this happening? Like, like talking about other characters' feelings in the story is really important for that social awareness that we are looking to develop in our students.
I love that you just shared. When I was teaching Revolutionary War, Civil War in 5th grade, we would do different simulations, and we would look at how it connected to the content, but I would also have them reflect on how they felt in that battle simulation, because I wanted them to remember that it was people that were fighting these wars, and they had feelings, that pressure, that anxiety, how scared they felt, all those things, trying to tie in that empathy, I think is something that actually doesn't take a lot of effort. It just takes some forethought, and the more you do it, the more you see those opportunities to slip in. I really like that wheel idea, and like you said, if you have a student that has one bad day, don't call a counselor. But at the same time, if it's a student that is always happy, and that one day it's red for angry or blue for sad or whatever, that might be a red flag to just check on and say, hey, what's going on? Are they going to share anything? Because it might be something really bad that one day, because they're typically always so happy. And you talked about it earlier, where they're not going to learn. If there's something going on at home, if there's something going on really weighing on them emotionally, they're not going to learn. I can remember I had these 3 girls in my class one year that were best friends. They wanted to do everything together. They were always happy, always upbeat, always positive. And within the first 20 minutes of school, I could tell that something was going on because they were avoiding each other. I had them work together at one point, and like one of them left the group. And so I pulled them out. We talked in the hallway, and I'm not exaggerating. I think they took 2 hours to settle the problems that they had. I was going in, I was checking on them, but they're mature enough to kind of have the conversations themselves. They came back, they were fine, and they're still friends years later. And I had parents thanking me for it because, one, they almost, they settled their friendship in that moment, but two, I knew they would not have learned a single thing from me the entire day. They were too upset to comprehend anything that I was going to try to teach them that day. So anytime you can do that, I think is so important. I think a teacher hearing that, even if they love the idea, because this is the way a lot of teachers think, and there's nothing wrong with that, is how do I have time for that? How am I going to find time to do something like that? Once you get those routines set up with your students on setting the goals, filling out their emotions, the chart, doing the flip grids, how much time does it take? I'm going to guess it doesn't take a lot, but why don't you share that with us?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, at the beginning it takes a lot because it's routines, but I mean, we always recommend to take a long time at the beginning because that's going to prevent you from losing or wasting time every single week from now on until the end of the year. I mean, it's like basic routines, right? You work a lot on the beginning because you don't want to repeat the same routine or like repeat the same things over and over and over the whole year, right? So this is like a routine, a procedure we use so they know that first thing they need to do is get the computer, open OneNote, and do their wheel of feelings, do their weekly goals, and be ready for that.
Are you guys doing this as well with your students? And is it kind of in front of kids? I assume you model it at the beginning of the year, but are you doing something similar and expressing those? I could imagine the goals almost looking like essential questions in a lesson. But I'm just interested to see how much of your own kind of background and feeling do you pull into your classroom to, again, make connections with kids?
That's a great question. That's a great question because
I think it's the key of it.
Yeah,
right?
we always say that you cannot ask a student to be polite if you are yelling at him, right? So like you need to set an example. So this is the same. Like we share our feelings. For example, like we can go to our class and say, hey guys, today I didn't sleep well, or today something happened at home. We don't say what. We don't tell them, what is going on, but we tell them, hey, I am very sad today. Something happened. I don't know. My mom is in the hospital. I don't know, whatever. Or I'm anxious because tomorrow I have this test. I need to pass. For my master's, whatever. We share those emotions with them, and I think that
and we ask for help.
Like, hey guys, can you help me today? I need help because I'm struggling today. So that is great. Because when they are feeling bad, they are having those problems. They're gonna follow your example. They're gonna come to you and say, hey, today I'm struggling. Maybe they don't tell you why, but all you need to know is that they are struggling and they ask for help because they've seen you doing that, And then like a huge mistake that we've seen is that there is this taboo, around emotions, that people just don't talk about emotions.
But in our society
in general, it's not just teachers, So when like we as teachers go there and say, hey guys, I'm struggling, I need help, they are like, oh wow, like he's a person. You know what I mean? He struggles too. He has bad days. So when they're having a bad day, they're gonna come to you and say, I need help. And like we have many and many and many examples of that throughout the years. Like how our students have asked us for help. Like not only like, hey, I don't understand this math concept. No, it's more like, hey, so this happened during the weekend. I need help.
And that's what we got into teaching for, to help
Exactly.
kids. It doesn't always have to align to curriculum. And I think sometimes we lose sight of it. We have these external pressures, like the kids have these external pressures of what they need to do that can quickly swoop us up. And almost like a tornado, we get so focused because everything, our whole world, all of those responsibilities really take over. and you forget what matters most, which goes back to connection and what you guys said earlier.
I can remember like one case that
we had both these students.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking, what I'm gonna talk about. Like she just came to me and say, "Hey, I am Senor Mario. Hey, Senor Mario. Something happened during the weekend. I don't think I'll be able to learn today. I am very sad. So something happened during the weekend, every single weekend. For different reasons.
Well,
yeah,
every other weekend.
Every other weekend, yeah. And then we talked. I talked with the counselor. She didn't want to talk with the counselor. Didn't want to talk with anyone. So I ended up meeting with her from 30 to 1 hour. Every Monday. After this, but I didn't know that was going on. She was the one who came to me and say, I am struggling. This is happening at home. I need your help. So I don't think that would have been possible if we didn't have this approach. Alberto's approach, because he had her in 5th grade, and I had her in 6th grade. So.
I think a long-term thing, right? You cannot expect your kids to open their hearts the first day you do something like this, right? So it's a long-term approach that
we have 2 years for that.
Yeah.
Which is a huge kind of
valuable.
Yeah.
And I'm in your camp on this one. I mean, this was by far the most important thing to me as a classroom teacher. I know I keep playing the time card and the curriculum card. It's one, because I think it's an important conversation. I see it more in my position now with those pressures of curriculum as an instructional coach. But I just want to hit on what you said. When you spend time on this, when you spend time on teaching procedures and routines, which we already do, but when you add this component of the social and emotional learning, you're going to buy back tenfold the time throughout the year, because you're going to have your kids with you more. They're going to be engaged more. They're going to be learning more. So I love how you said about that. You're really front loading your time and preparing your class to just move better as a group, to learn better as a group, to stay connected. So kind of transitioning into that, I want to jump into our lesson lens, because I am super excited to see how the two of you attack this together. Knowing that you guys pair off as 5th and 6th grade. Mario, do you feel the pressure, being the second year of the ETwins as you have branded yourself? Have you always been behind him in a grade level, or has it only been like that for a couple of years?
I think that students are super happy to get me after 1 year of waste.
They actually leave school after
You made it 49 minutes without making fun of each other. So to me that's pretty impressive. Having a brother myself.
We almost made it, but
it was longer than usual, I've gotta say. So.
Yeah. All right, so
I think that I do the easy job, to be honest. When I get my students, I need to continue that. But Alberto, he's taught them. He established those routines. He established that culture, the environment. So I just need to kind of continue. And of course, I'm gonna make it more complex. Because it's 6th grade. It's just different. But I do the easy work, to be honest.
Well, and that almost kind of pairs.
I'm not gonna repeat it.
That almost partners really well with what you guys are studying in your PhD, right? In one area, hey, I need to get everyone emotionally ready for learning, and then they move on to another year, and it's what skills do I need to be a functioning adult in this new world that we're living in. Yeah, I think that's a great tag team partnership you guys have.
Yeah, definitely.
We always say that, can you imagine if the whole school was doing this, from kindergarten to 6th grade? That'd be just amazing.
Matt and I have talked about that so many times, where you see those teachers that really just go above and beyond, whether it's their integration of the social and emotional learning, technology, critical thinking, whatever, but just those teachers that really take it one step further in doing something that they're super passionate about that really benefits students, and just thinking man, what if they could have a teacher like that every year? What would those kids turn into? What would they be able to untap that's inside of themselves? So
or even the benefit of the 7th grade teacher that gets the benefit of 2 years of great learning experience. They get to jump off and just fly with them, which is really outstanding.
Absolutely. So we do have, somewhat of the standard questions that we ask with our lesson lens, but depending on where you take us, we'll roll with the punches here. So question number 1 is, are we looking at a unit overview, a long-term project, or a single lesson?
Which one do you want to? I would say like the same.
Building a
No, the other one. Well, can we share two?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can.
Yeah.
We every year do like a big project. Like a 2 months,
long-term
3 months
project.
project. Yeah.
together. So my favorite one is building smiles. So that was when Mario was teaching first grade, his favorite year, right?
I mean, I that was super fun. Like sixth grade, you are the bad guy-ish. First grade, you are their hero. You do no wrong. Like you do everything right. They love you so much.
They even argue with their parents, like you are right.
Yeah. Like I had students going home, and the parents were like, "No, this is not possible." And my students were like, "No, Mario is right. He cannot, he cannot be wrong. Like he's completely right." So.
Yeah, I taught
That's
second
not-
grade.
so-
It's the best. That makes it the best thing in the world. In that standpoint, like you're very close to God in their eyes. When you're
Yeah,
a
super
teacher in
close.
first or second grade. All right, so
that's
do we know what direction we're going at? Because I think we just threw out like 3 different ideas.
Yeah,
building smiles.
Okay.
So pretty much, so we partnered up. So we did the whole year what we called STEAM buddies. So pretty much my sixth graders went down once a week to first grade, and we partnered up and we introduced different tools for them to learn. We introduced Flipgrid to them. We introduced different Minecraft. We introduced a lot of things with
STEAM projects, analogic, like nothing technological, just like how to solve problems, STEAM challenges, stuff like that.
We did a lot of things together. That was a really fun year. We loved it, like working together and just watching the sixth graders helping the first graders to solve problems. That was awesome. So to end the year, we wanted to do something big, a big project.
A service project.
A service project. We always do service projects, so we tend to do service projects. So for this, we partnered up with We Schools, which is a non-profit organizations, and they have different villages around the world. Like they serve different communities that are in need. So for this, what we did is my students wrote a book in Spanish, a story, like a chapter book. And Mario's students, what they did, they just did the pictures of the book.
The drawing of the book.
The drawing of the book, which was really, really cute to see.
Well, going back a little bit, my students were learning about ecosystems, So a part of that learning was that Alberto's student taught my students about vocabulary words about ecosystems, animals, plants, stuff like that. So they needed to write a book about an animal, an animal and an ecosystem like that. And then my students did the drawing. After that, they got into Minecraft and they created the main character of the story on Minecraft.
Which was an animal.
And then we 3D printed them. So at this point, they have a book and a toy that went with the book, right? Because he was the main character. And after that, we did an audio book on Flipgrid that we put a QR code in the
Back part.
in the back part of the book. And then they created a video game, an adventure mode in Minecraft as well, which went with the book. So at this point, we had the book
And two QR codes at the back.
with the video game and the audiobook, and then the toy. And we wanted to donate this to someone, but we needed to find a community that spoke Spanish, right? Because the books were in Spanish. So we partnered up, as Alberto said, with We Schools, that they have a village in Haiti. Even they speak French, but it's so close to Dominican Republic, So they had a lot of Spanish population. And we sent all of that to that village, with their help. We shaped that.
And I remember 2 months later, we got pictures of
It's just amazing.
those kids opening their books and playing with those toys. And I still remember the day. Do you remember?
Yeah.
We were eating breakfast with our parents that flew in from Spain to spend Christmas with us.
That was the best Christmas gift, honestly. And then the reaction of our students, because sometimes you do service projects, but they don't see the impact that they are making, But when we got those pictures back, they saw the smile on those kids' faces, and they saw that they were making an impact, that they were just like helping other students on the other side of the world, very far away. Like their reaction was like, we even had students like, oh my goodness, I want to keep doing this. We need to find another organization or another way to be able to help other people.
And if someone is interested in learning more about building smiles, I think it just search on Twitter and the hashtag building smiles, and we tweet out the whole process since we start STEAM buddies all the way to the final pictures of the students in high tea, like playing and reading those books.
Yeah. Man, oh man. From not being able to get kids to come out of the hallway in a line to being published illustrators and giving gifts is pretty good stuff. I guess kind of shifting from that, Mario, I could imagine when they saw the photos, they understood what they did and maybe the grandeur of what they did. Alberto, did they recognize, since you had older students, did they recognize any sooner the value? Did it click with them, the service, the joy that they would be creating, which would lead to intrinsic motivation? And also, I guess I'll also pair in, not the big picture, but what did the first grade learners provide to the sixth graders in skills? What was that learning experience like for them? Because we can obviously tell a sixth grader can guide a younger kid, but I'm sure there's also exchange equally between the two.
I think that they kind of like recognize what they did, the impact they made, but it was right after seeing those pictures, right? Because like at the beginning or throughout the project, we were telling them, all right, we are doing this for this community, we are doing this to help these kids out, but I think they couldn't picture. I couldn't picture it, I couldn't see the big picture until I saw the pictures. And I think that happened to them too. That realized that they actually made a great impact on that community, providing those kids with books that they didn't have, with toys that they didn't have, and they had a lot of students that they didn't know how to read. So that's why we put the audiobooks there for them. So until they didn't see that was real, right? They couldn't figure out that they were making an impact. But after that, it was just by watching their faces was worth
and
it.
It wasn't, like we talk about service learning, but it was about content and curriculum as well. Sixth grade, they were learning Spanish. They wrote a book. They read the book because they needed to do the audiobook. First graders, they learned about ecosystems, vocabulary, how to solve challenges, how to create like a 3D model. That is very important as well, for first graders, And then sixth grader, they benefited from all of that, plus they were teaching what they knew to the first graders. Like if you have never done this as a teacher, we highly recommend it. Like have your students teaching what they learned to other student or to other person. And you're gonna see how that content, whatever they are teaching, it clicks and it sticks on them, because they are teaching that to other person.
Well, yeah, you have to. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, sorry, so I have just a minor example, and it doesn't have to be a big gap like first and sixth grade. I had my fourth graders be the ones that taught the third graders introduction to area and perimeter and surface and those type features, because they were mastering the skill in fourth grade, but it was only introduced in third grade. And the depth that the third graders learned it from their peers or close to their peers made a wild difference in their understanding, as opposed to here's a formula, fill it in, here's another formula, fill it in, now all the blanks are filled. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I was going to reiterate that and just say that when the students know they're expected to teach others, not only do you need to have an understanding of the skill, obviously, to teach, but just that pressure. Like they feel that pressure of all right, it's on me. I need to step up for these kids. And when things like that go on long enough, Matt, you do that for, just in your case, third to fourth grade. The next year you do that, those fourth graders you have are going to remember the experience as third graders and be more motivated to do a better job because they want to support those now current third graders just as much. So when you guys reflect back on that project and everything that you were able to layer in throughout the process and have the students create, what do you think was key in your role in really bringing out the success of the students throughout that project, maybe from the first grade perspective and the sixth grade perspective kind of separately?
From the first grade perspective, I think that I said it before, but just scaffolding. You really need to, just give it to them in pieces. Different steps, very slowly. Because you're asking a first grade student to do like this massive project. And I would say that one thing that we did very well is take like a step by step. We didn't start our project thinking about the final result. We started like, okay, today we need to do this. Let's focus on this. Tomorrow we're doing this. Let's focus on this. Instead of just focusing on the final result, because like if you're trying to have first graders to do all of this at the same time, or like to do like this massive project, the first couple weeks or whatever, like they're gonna get overwhelmed, you're gonna stress out, it's gonna be just a mess. It's not gonna work. Just for first graders or lower grades, just take it easy, just take day by day, step by step, and don't think about how the final result is going to look like. Just focus on what you're doing right, in that moment.
And also I think one thing that we did well was we trust our students, right? I believe that students can do way more things that the things that we think they can do. We many times underestimate what the student can accomplish.
I completely agree.
We underestimate what a first grader or even a sixth grader can do. We need to push them to be better. We need to push them out of the comfort zone. We need to trust them they can do it. And if they cannot, I'm there with them to help them out. But we don't need to underestimate what they can accomplish. And I think that was one of the main things that make this project successful.
I think
Can't say
both
that
of
enough.
those, both of those parts are massive. I think we love the idea of service projects or even big unit projects in education. It feels like we put a nice bow on all the learning that we've done all year long, and it kind of represents all those things. But it's very, very overwhelming. And you've already taken a service project to an incredible degree. I guess to ask this question, like, I assume the success and honestly that Christmas gift, I imagine more so seeing those pictures was the excitement to show your kids those pictures was even better than you seeing them yourself. What has that taught you about that kind of open mindset of new projects and what you consider as future projects? Because I'm sure as creative individuals, you don't just rinse and repeat the same project over again, but speaking to their level of what do I expect of them and can they do more than what I'm giving them credit for? What is your evaluation when trying to do another service project or other projects at different times of the year?
I think one thing that I want to clarify, so it was a Christmas gift because it took forever to send those to Haiti. So we finished them actually in end of April, May-ish. And then we wait all the summer and we were like, it's not gonna make it. The box is not gonna make it, And then because we ship it to the non-profit organization, which is based in Toronto, Canada. And they took it there in the next trip that they had planned, which was like around November. So that's why I just want to clarify those things.
Absolutely.
So I would say that I lost what I was going to say. Sorry. You interrupted me.
The question, just to restate it and give you a moment, is just like we are looking for these projects that get us excited the moment we wake up to run to school and start them. I think that's what we all look forward to. What is your thought process, your evaluation? How is the success of this example opened your mindset to trying something new with kids that is not only just curricular, but also could change a kid's perspective of their year with you?
How we did another project that's called Design the Future, and then we did that project, because of building smiles, because like one of the things that we hear a lot of teachers to talk about, or education leaders or whatever, is like real world problems. You need to bring to your classroom real world problems. Actually, we're not bringing real world problems. Why? Like, yes, we are solving problems, but those problems, are not real world. You are
fake real world.
They are
problems.
fake real world problems, right? Like, you are actually solving problems that are not going to make any impact in the outside, right?
Yeah.
So like, and we were doing that in the past. As Alberto said, solving fake real world problems. But with this project, we started to solve real world projects, and problems. And then you can think that there's no difference with that. But the difference is huge. The impact that you are making in your students, it is huge, because they are realizing that they can make that change, So like, from now on, from that moment, every project we've done, like, it was a real world problem. We partnered up with organizations, we partnered up with companies, we did several things, several different projects, and everything was focused on, okay, this needs to be real world, My students need to solve those problems that are out there, and they need to be real. So that difference is huge, and we realized of that difference when we did this project.
And something that we realized during those projects was like, we need to ask for help, right? We love to partner up with organizations that can provide us something that we cannot achieve by ourselves, right? For example, these Building Smiles, we partnered up with We Schools because we're looking for communities that were in need of those materials, but we couldn't find them. So we reached out to a community partner to find those communities. We did another project what was like, we partnered up with a school furniture company to kind of build a piece of furniture. It was a really cool project too.
Super amazing.
And it was in their catalog, actually. They built it for us.
Our students designed that piece of furniture, and it is now in their catalog.
That's so cool.
So like, and yeah, well, we can talk more about that probably later, but like, it's pretty much like they are designing, something that is real. Actually, like, we got a piece of that furniture that it is in our school right now, but if they want that furniture for their house, they can go there and buy it, So that is real, real world situations.
And it's really important that, as I was saying, there are many things that we cannot accomplish by ourselves. Just reach to a community partner, a partner that can give you something that you cannot accomplish by yourself. And that's something that we have learned in the last 4 or 5 years since we started to develop this project. It's like there are many people that are willing to help, many people that love to work with the schools. So what about if we bring those people to our classrooms, and those people are going to help us to take this project to the next level?
I think that's really wise. And I think the one thing that I'll add is we as educators get construction paper cards all the time. Business owners and community members don't, and it means the world to them. And you're not going out and asking for money, you're just asking for their expertise, their time, their perspective, and 12, 15, 20 some thank you cards is more than enough currency to make all their time worthwhile. I think that's another perspective as us educators feeling obligated, like, do I need to send anything? They love a heartfelt thank you.
Yeah, 100% in it. And what you're saying really ties full circle back to what you started with about solving 1,000 problems a day your kids are doing. You guys are solving problems, and you're modeling that again with, we don't have the ability to find these partners that we need or these schools that we're trying to reach. So you're solving problems by using your resources and finding organizations that can kind of help leverage that for you. So I think that's incredible that you're modeling that as well. So I don't want to cut this conversation off at all because I am having a blast, but I do want to try to be a little bit cognizant of our time. So I want to turn into the exit ticket, which is our same 4 questions that we ask all our guests every week. And so you both can answer it together, separately, however you want to do it. Question number 1, what is the best thing a teacher can do to make a student's school experience better?
Care about him or her.
and then make them to have fun. Make them excited to come to school.
Both together? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that's a great answer. The next one is, what's the best advice that you've received? And it could be from a colleague, a supervisor, or even a student.
Oof.
That's a good one.
I would say that whatever you do it 100%. Just don't start a project.
Go big or go home.
Don't start a project. Don't start something like a job or whatever. If you're not going to do it 100%, every single thing that you do, you need to give that 100% attention to that job, student, class, whatever.
Awesome. Thank you. So the school year goes in waves. We have stressful times, typically around report cards, conferences, back to school nights, where things really pile up on us as classroom teachers. So what is something that you want to say to every teacher in that moment to help them power up?
I think all we do is worthy. We are truly making a difference in those students' lives. We truly are making a difference in our future society. So all the work we put in, all the stress we need to handle, all the long nights, all the crappy emails we get, all those are worthy because we are changing so many students' life.
And I don't know about you, but all of those is days and bad days or whatever, they go away when you get a card from one of your students. Thank you so much for teaching me. Something like that. It's super worth it. Those the good moments are always way worth it and way better than the bad moments.
So the last question for you guys, and I know you mentioned it earlier, but I have to watch you two talk about life, but also education is really very, very addicting. I'm ramped up, ready to get after it. I'm envious of your partnership. How can our audience continue to stay connected with you to follow along on these great projects, other opportunities that you're presenting as you're doing some incredible things?
So we are on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and then we have a YouTube channel that we talk about education, but it's in Spanish. So for those Spanish speakers.
On our webpage, ETwinz.com, we have a calendar there that not yet.
We're rebuilding the website. Will be
it's a spoiler. No one knows about it, but
it will go live next week. So we have a calendar there with our upcoming events. We have a blog as well. We talk in the blog, and we have guest writers every month as well in the blog. So it's not only us, and we talk about different topics. And
so there are over 50 some blogs that we talk about. All we have been talking here, but how we teach in our classes and why we believe all the things we believe in
tools
education.
That we use and all of that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been a blast. I was excited about digging into this, especially after we met last night to test technology out and everything. You guys you're true inspiration. Your school is super lucky to have you. The thought of students going through both of your classrooms one year after another is just sounds like an incredible experience, and everything that you guys do, the efforts that you make, the experiences that you create are going to change their lives forever. They're going to be more apt to thrive and survive in this world and really make a difference. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you so much for everybody that is tuning in and listening to us. Any details that you want to find, their social media handles, their websites, everything will be all linked up in our show notes page, which can be found at powereduup.com/show38. And we will be sure to have everything there for people to access and stay connected with you guys. And I hope that we keep our circles crossed as well, because I would definitely love to stay connected with you guys and be more involved. So thanks again. And Matt, why don't you take us on out of here?
All right, Alberto and Mario, you have definitely left us feeling powered up as we power down this episode. Everyone, hopefully you're doing well, staying healthy and happy, and make tomorrow a great day. It is a great opportunity to be in the position we're in. So be good, and we'll talk to you guys next week.